So I found this book to be very special to me. Range. Why Generalists Triumph in a Specialized World. This book was written by David Epstein. It's important to bring out one or two things that are very special in this book. The first thing is that this book is research-centered. The author did a lot of research on individuals and organizations that shape talents and gifted minds across the world. Now, the other point is that this book is referred to as being highly intelligent. Why is it intelligent? Is because it simplifies the complex. That is always a mark of a genius. When complex things are simplified to be easy understood by ordinary minds and the general public, then that is a mark of intelligence. The other very important aspect of this book is that this book is able to bring into perspective competence-based education in a great way. Why? Because we are looking at talents. And these talents are either intellectual or they are in sports arena or co-curricular. So you discover that this book dives deep into various examples of sportsmen and sportswomen who have excelled over the years in a great and sterling manner. The other point that you need to know about this book is that, for young people to bring up talents and their gifts as it's required, it needs a huge range of a large spectrum of sports, of disciplines, and so on, from which now you narrow down into a specific discipline. That's why this book looks at the generalists, then you go into specialization. I'll be looking deep into this. So to start with, this book, as you can see, at the introductory level, discusses two important great people. That is Roger Federer and Tiger Woods. For example, Roger Federer is a giant in, the lawn tennis. And Tiger Woods is a master in the golf. These are two examples from which we are going to learn a number of lessons that are very important in this session. Let's start by reading what the author says in the first paragraph. The author says, let's start with a couple of stories from the world of sports. This first one you probably know. The boy's father would tell something was different. At 6 months old, the boy could balance on his father's palm as he walked through their home. At 7 months, his father gave him a putter to fool around with, and the boy dragged it everywhere he went and in the little circular baby walker. At 10 months, he climbed down from the higher chair, straddled over the golf club that had been cut down to size for him, and imitated and swing he'd been watching in the garage. Because the father couldn't yet talk with his son, he'd do pictures to show the boy how to place his hand on the club. It is very difficult to communicate how to putt when the child is too young to talk. He would later not. That's the first paragraph. And there is one important thing that you are getting on this first paragraph. This is about relationship. In sports, when you want to bring up talents, and even in other areas or in other fields of development, you will need to have good relationship between the parent and the child, the relationship between, the coach and the player, relationship between player and the teammates. It's important you understand that it's impossible for you to build talents. It's impossible for you to shape your gifts in life as a young person or as a parent if you don't build mutual relationship where there is understanding, there is trust, and there is trustworthiness. This is what we see in the first paragraph. Let's go deep a little bit and get some other point on this. The book indicates clearly that at the age of 2 or at 2, an age when Center for Disease Control and Prevention list physical development milestones like kick a ball and stand on tiptoe, he went on the national television and is the club tall enough to reach his shoulder to drive a ball past admiring Bob Hope. That same year, he entered his first tournament and won the 10 under 10 division. Then the next paragraph says, by 3, the boy was learning how to play out and stand a swap. The book goes on and say when the boy was 4, his father would drop him off at a golf course at 9 in the morning and pick him up 8 hours later. At 8, the son would beat his father in the first game. So what do we learn, the second point from this part of the paragraph? Here, we are learning on keeping records and tracking, tracking the development. If you want to build gifts, if you want to build talents and become a greater talent than what we see in Roger Federer and in Tiger Woods, then you have no option but to have some sort of a chronological record of events. If you're coaching some young people who may not be your sons and daughters, or you're coaching people who are your sons and daughters, then you have to track systematically and keep record of what they do at different stages and at different ages. This is important both for the very individuals you are coaching or training, or for future reference by other people who want to follow suit of those who have already achieved in life. So this is very important second point that you need to keep in mind if you want to build talents, if you want to bring out gifts that go beyond what Roger and Tiger did. The second person that we would discuss is FEDERA. You see, the case of FEDERA, let's read through. Let's read through. His mom was a coach, but she never coached him. All right? He would kick a ball around with her when he learned to walk. As a boy, he played squash with his father on Sundays. So let's identify the sports that he would play with the father. Number 1, he played squash on Sundays. He dabbled in skiing, wrestling, swimming, skateboarding, basketball, handball, tennis, table tennis, badminton, and soccer at school. Look at a range of the sports that this young person engaged in at that particular level. So we are learning from this point here the importance of a range of sports at a younger age, because it's from this range of sports that now people end up specializing. I don't believe in a state whereby young people or small children are tailored towards a biased view of a certain sport or a certain discipline in life. You'll see somebody's born, and when they're still children, they are told you will be an engineer, and that has to stick. You'll be a lawyer and that has to stick. That's not the right way. The right way is you provide a huge spectrum of sports or of discipline that this person would be able to engage in. Then later on, they're able to identify what suits them the most. There's a very interesting thing that comes when you look at it from that dimension. You see, it will take time. You have to take time and learn a number of skills. You have to take time and, you check which one it best suits you before you come to conclusion what you are going to do later on in life. And this is not just in sports. We can see from this paragraph here, this read again, oncologists no longer specialize in cancer, but rather in cancer related to a single organ, and the trend advances each year. Surgeon Wright Atul Gawade pointed out that when doctors joke about left ear surgeons, this is an important point, that even in the discipline of medicine, people no longer just say that I want to be a doctor. That's not the case. We want to encourage young people to be well exposed and have a huge spectrum of information in the fields they're interested in. And when they say that they want to be oncologists, they should be able to understand that somebody would specialize on a specific organ in the body. I always encourage young people that when you want to be an engineer, at first you may be okay to say, I want to be an engineer. But as you move on with your studies, as you grow in age, getting to 12 years, 13, 14, 15, you should have learned to be more specific and say, for instance, that I want to be an electronic and electronics engineer, or I want to be an mechatronics engineer. And there's no harm if you can go into very specific aspects of that electronics and electrical engineering that you would wish to study. I want a situation whereby the student does not just say they want to be computer scientists. Why can't they narrow down and say, I want later on to be a specialist in machine learning, data science, or if it's AI, you narrow down to a specific AI. In this case, we are seeing that doctors who specialize far much into a specific organ then become more specialized into that field and therefore likely to achieve better results in life. A little bit on this part here, we read that let's read this paragraph here from this point here, that individuals supervised by an instructor supplied with immediate informative feedback and knowledge of the results of their performance, and repeatedly perform the same or similar tasks. Reams of work on expertise development shows that elite athletes spend more time in highly technical, deliberate practice each week than those who plateau at lower levels. So what you're learning also from this, it's important that you have a schedule, a detailed schedule. Of the events and activities that your children or your sports people are engaged in. Look at this. For this case here, we are looking at the case of age as one of the variables and average practicing hours per week, like that. So you discover that those who are elite continue to engage in high-level performance and high-level tactical skills continuously in their life at the age of 15, 18, all the way to 21 and all through their lives. But those who may not be elite, who may, go ahead and slump a little bit in their training and so on. So we are looking at a situation whereby the schedule is supposed to be detailed. The schedule is supposed to be detailed, showing the number of hours of training. They should show the skills that you are getting. It should also be able to show if you are building correct skills, correct tactics, and correct strategies. It should also show your performance over time. performance record over time. So this is important when you are building a schedule for the person you are training. One thing that you need to know is that acquiring more skills in different fields is very important, because when you specialize, you're able still to connect dots from one field to the other field as you deliver your results, or as you deliver your talent in different and dynamic way. When you look at this, because you're picking fields that are of a huge range, young people or students should not be worried that because I'm moving to the next class, I'm moving to the next grade, I'm worried that I will miss this and that. There's no harm. In fact, take time and learn different categories of subjects, learn different categories of discipline before you specialize. That's what this book emphasizes on. You see, at this point here, the book clearly indicates that, let me read, the title of one of the study of the athletes in the individual sports proclaimed net specialization as a key to success. Another one, making it top to the team sports, start later, intensify, and be determined. So by the time you are starting late, what you're calling late specialization, it means that you already have a grounding on a wide range of spectrum of disciplines from which you are picking the areas that you will be specializing. And this has proved to be very beneficial later on in life. You discover that for example, let's read this. The community of world's most popular sport, soccer, was loudest. And then, as if on a cue, in the late 1914, a team of German scientists published a study showing that members of the national team, which had just won the World Cup, were typically net specializers. So I would wish to emphasize the fact that there is no harm in children specializing a little bit late, provided that they have been given a huge range, a spectrum of disciplines and sports from which they will eventually. And this is not just in sports. This also you discover in other disciplines that it's very significant. Those who started late may not as necessarily as been bad, but it brought very important foundations in their lives, or they build important foundations in their lives that later on would, you see, researchers at Northwestern MIT and US Census Bureau studied new tech companies and showed that among the fastest growing startups, the average age of the founder was 45 when the company was launched. Right? Zuckerberg was 22 when he said that it was in his interest to broadcast the message, just as it's in the interest of people who run youth sports league to claim that a year-round devotion to one activity is necessary for success. Never mind evidence to the contrary, but the drive to specialize does go beyond that. Highly specialized healthcare professionals have developed their own versions of if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Yes, this is one of the biggest problems, whereby people specialize without having a broader scope of what that field entails. You see, if somebody is intending to be a dentist, then it's important for this person to understand how the dental formula affects the rest of the body. How is it affecting the neuron to the brain? Is it affecting some part of the eye? And so on and so forth. So eventually this is
intertwined. So by the time you are specializing into a specific area or into a specific field, it's important you have a broad spectrum from which you are picking your specialization. This is important for young people and young talents who want to specialize and become greater in their undertaking. Range is a very special book. It will build a broad and strong exposure for those who want to build talent and become greater. A copy of this book can be found in the link just below this video, or if you want to have more insights into this book as we go deep and deep, then you would book a session using the phone number WhatsApp given in the video and also in the description, just